Right, everybody, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be, and welcome to our very short little webinar where we're going to discuss the new enhancements we've got to Bean and the Bean in the Box concept of what we've got. My name is Bruce McKenzie. I'm hoping you can all hear me, you can all see me. If you have got any challenges or you can't hear me, please do type into the question box below. My colleague Mark will be trying to answer some of those questions as we move through it. But thank you very much for joining me. As I said, the intention of this is really just to take a very short bit of time out of your busy schedules and talk a little bit about what we've done in terms of Bean. Now, I want to start off just by explaining to those of you who may not have heard of Bean exactly what Bean is. Bean was something we created a number of years ago, and it really was in response to the way we see the new generation learning. If you go back to people like the Generation Zs, which is really what we see now, this is a very digital group. And when you look at people who are generally training your team, these are young people, they're dynamic, they're used to media-rich content, they're used to just-in-time learning. They're not really in a situation where they want to sit and go through the traditional learning that many of us would have gone through, where we sat in the class for 7 or 8 days and just learned how to audit. This is planning, this is execution, and this is how we conclude. They're wanting to look at something more dynamic. Secondly, we were under budget pressure. I'm sure all of you are feeling it. There's a squeeze on pressure on fees. There's a squeeze in terms of what people are available for learning budgets. And we wanted to try and come up with a cost-effective solution that would hopefully be able to give people high-quality training with something that would fit in their budgets. In addition, time pressure. We need people to be more efficient. That's a general message that we were getting from people. And having people out of the office constantly doing non-billable learning wasn't really ideal. In addition to that, many of the firms found a problem in that when they wanted to have their training done, to have all the trainees out the office on the same days meant there was nobody around to do the client work. That became a bit of a challenge. And lastly, of course, we heard a lot about the fact that there was the on-the-job knowledge that's needed. That people needed to learn on the job, they needed to do their training as and when they were there. Because, for example, if you taught them how to audit receivables in January, who's to say that by July or August, they remember the learning they'd done earlier in the year? So these are the problems everybody was facing, which is why we originally came up with the concept of Bean. Now, Bean is an electronic training tool. And the idea really is it's something that you download, you can install into your computer, or you can run it via the cloud online through any internet browser. And really what it does, it was a simulated audit. We created a company called Andy Limited, and what the trainee would do is they would work through the entire audit process, through the various modules there, where they'd be able to go through pre-engagement activities and planning, execution, and of course concluding and reporting. This gave them the ability to have instant knowledge available when they were on the job. The good news about that, of course, is that remember that this wasn't linear, because we don't learn in a linear fashion. So you didn't have to start the planning, go to execution, and go to concluding. You could jump in and out, which enabled, for example, the first year on day one, who's doing bank and cash, to go straight into bank and cash and be able to look at that. So it was quite an interesting program. Now, if you haven't seen the Bean application, I'm going to give you a minute or two just to quickly have a look at what it does. Now, the Bean application includes a whole number of things, from working papers to model audit files to a whole lot of various bits and pieces that I'll quickly show you now. This is the interface for Bean. And as you can see, it was designed very much with millennials in mind, with Generation Z in mind, where they had something that they could go through and choose the learning they wanted to do. And there are various things that they can do on there. There's introductory videos. There's a small game. Don't worry, they're not going to spend their lives playing it, but something just to give them that small break, which is limited by time. There's even an IFRS library where the relevant standards applicable to them would be available there. There was, of course, the main area is what we call the audit learning. And if you clicked onto the audit learning, that's where you went in and saw the three main areas: your pre-engagement and planning, your execution, and your concluding and reporting. Now, the idea of this, of course, is that within each of these, they could go and choose the module they wanted to do, and then they'd go and they'd complete that module. Remember, of course, in completing that module, it's not just a situation of pointing and clicking and going through, but this is a very interactive process where the trainees would go through and actually complete the section. What that means is they'd have to go and do everything that you'd be required to do within an audit file, looking at things like the lead sheets, the model audit programs, working papers, and even had to do things like complete the spreadsheets and look at source documents and actually do the working papers. I think that's the key thing to point out about this. This isn't a video presentation. It's not just a PowerPoint presentation. This is a program where people would work through each step within the audit, completing the program, completing the working papers, and be able to see where they got things right and wrong. That's the key thing that we believe Beam really was different to anything else. Now, it's not to say it isn't media rich. We have a lot of video interviews with the client, the experience what it's like in client interviews. There's a lot of situations where they've got to look at source documents, trace them through to the GLs, back and forth, do ratio analysis, ARs. So it is a very interactive audit learning experience. Now, that's essentially what's on the Beam learning program. And if you haven't seen it before, let us know after this and we can happily send you a demo, or of course we could take you through all the details that are within that. The other thing just to note that we have included into the application is there's also there's a search of all the ISAs. And what we've done is we've licensed the ISAs from iFrac, and all the ISAs are available in the application, so somebody can go look at the source documents should they want to do that. Now, the last thing, remember that the electronic program's got that's a lot of use, and this is something that we get a lot of feedback has been really, really positive, is that there's a very, very detailed reporting tool, which means it's not just a situation of hoping people do training, but you can train, you can monitor what the trainees are doing, and you can look at reports. Now, the reports can be done by a firm, the reports can be done by individual, you can see what people are passing, what people are failing, and it gives you a nice indication of where the problems may be. So, for example, in your firm, if everybody was battling with receivables, well, then maybe you need another interaction. So it gave you the ability to continually monitor what the guys were doing. Now, that's the Beam application at the moment. And as I said, that currently is a standalone digital program. And that's currently what's being used at the moment. What have our learnings been in terms of it? Well, the feedback's been very positive. Since we launched it about 18 months ago, we've had a lot of firms come on board. Currently, it's being rolled out to thousands of people worldwide. We've got many of the mid-tier network firms taking it on, and it's become a very, very positive influence, we believe, in training. We've also been enhancing it. There's new modules on finalization that are coming, including things like journal entry testing. We've also just recently launched a new module on assertions. So the program continues to evolve as, of course, we see changes. And with all the new ISAs coming out, or the amended ISAs, those will also be updated as the training comes in. But one big feedback, of course, has been that a lot of the managers and partners we're speaking to are using this as an on-the-job training tool. So if a trainee comes to the manager and says, I don't know how to audit bank and cash, for example, instead of a manager having spent an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours talking them through it, they're saying, go to the module, then come and talk to me. Giving managers and partners the ability to use their expensive time on the much more important coaching element and letting the basic learning come across on the other side. So it's very important that people understand that these things are in place. But how do we take it a step further? One of the feedbacks we've seen is that as much as we're great believers in the digital training, we still believe that there's an area where, of course, some people want to run in-house training. In other words, they still want facilitator-led training within their firm. That's where we've decided to come up and enhance it with a blended learning solution. Now, what do I mean by a blended learning solution? Blended learning, in essence, is where we take the e-learning as well as facilitator-led learning and you blend the two together, which means a normal face-to-face course that could take 5 or 6 days to run could be reduced to 2 days because we're limiting the number of hours that somebody needs to be potentially in a classroom by enhancing it with the e-learning. It also allows people to take the e-learning and use it as a consolidation tool after the training. So instead of somebody learning how to audit payables in a classroom and leaving it for the next 6 months, they can leave that room and they can continually go back and see how that works. That's the exciting part of a blended learning solution. Now, what have we done? In terms of what we're now introducing a complete blended learning program. The reason we call it Beam in a Box is because this ability for your firm to run their own in-house training program. So a couple of things we believe the blended solution will offer. Firstly, it's cost effective. Because you're running the training yourself, you don't need to hire external people to help you. Don't worry, if you do need external facilitators, we have people who can gladly come and help you. But I think you'll see now that there's a great ability for you to run this yourself, given the tools we're about to give you. Secondly, you've got the ability to tailor the learning. Everything I'm going to show you now we're giving you is in source document form, which means you can take the slides and you can change the slides to what you want. You can change the work for something specific you may have within your firm, but gives you the ability to tailor it in terms of what you're doing. And very importantly, it interacts with the software, which means as people are learning, They're continually referring back to the Bean software and using it to both consolidate and as an on-the-job tool going further. But what's even better is for those of you currently using Bean, there's no additional cost. Basically, we're taking an entire facilitator toolkit and we're giving it to you as part of your Bean subscription. Now let's take a look at what it's like. This is a screenshot that I've just put up here at the moment, exactly what the facilitator website looks like. If you log on to it, and of course you'd need your logon to get there, these are all the materials that are available to you. And all of these can be freely downloaded. If I just take one of the sections and show you what it looks like, you can see the various tools we've got. To start off with, there's a very short video, normally about a minute or so, just introducing what we're covering within that section. Most importantly is the instructor guide. There's a very detailed instructor guide that takes you step by step through how you would run that module, with recommendations on timing, case studies you may use, and an explanation of what the material is actually covering. So if you don't really have somebody who's very strong in facilitation, this is almost their dummies toolkit to how they could run the program. In addition to that, there's the slides. So we're giving you the PowerPoint slides that you can use. And as I said, you can tailor these if you want to what would suit your firm. And then there's all the information you need for the delegates. There's the delegates workbook, which you can obviously take and print off or give to them electronically. And then there are any handouts or solutions that you may need. In addition to that, at the end, you can see that we've given you the Bean modules that link into this specific module. Now, that, as you can appreciate, is not just for the one module. That's for every module that we've got. And I'm going to take you now through the various things that we're offering. So all the learning that we're making available have got these tools available to you to tie with the Bean application. And as I said, there's just some examples, the slides, the instructor manuals, the questionnaires, the solutions, everything's been given to you as part of our Bean app. Now, what exactly are we giving you? The aim of Bean, we believe, is to really train people up over their training program. So we believe this is a journey. And for most of you, you'll be aware that the training really needs to happen in the first 2 years of a trainee's joining a firm. By the time they're in their third year, they may need to refer back to things more for reference, but this is really where they should be now in the execution side and the planning, etc. So we believe that there are 3 journeys that you could take. Your Bean 1, which is your day 1, your induction program, taking them through the basics, obviously building up into Bean 2, where we start taking a look at a bit more things like planning, and going into your Bean 3, which really is your kind of into the second year, where we start to look at the reporting, the concluding, etc. like that. Once again, please note that this journey that I put up here is a recommendation. You are welcome to run the training any way you want. There's no rules. This is something you can choose. But we did see a lot of people asking us for a recommended route that would work for them. If you take a look at the materials that are on offer, I mean, these are just the materials we've taken where we've divided them up into various sections. What's interesting is you'll notice it's not just technical things. We've also included things like ethics, fraud, and you'll see that we've given you soft skill courses as well, like business etiquette and professionalism and business English. These are vital skills we believe that trainees need at this level, and that's why we're providing the facilitator material in addition to that. What I've also put on the other side of that slide is these are the modules within the electronic Bean program that they would need to do in order to complement the face-to-face training. You can see as we go to the second year, once again, second year also building on the planning, the materiality, and also getting into some of those other things like how do you plan inventory counts and the soft skills like delegation, communication, personal branding, because these are the type of areas where obviously as they start moving into their second and third years, the skills that people will need. And then going into the third year, of course, once again, things like project management, coaching, and getting into the reviewing and the wrapping up of the section. How do we review these various things? Things like control testing. And we've got a whole lot of Bean modules that also tie in to exactly what people are looking at in that area. Now, if I stop there for a second, you've got to admit, this is a lot of material that's being made available. And the reason we make it available is because we're wanting the trainees to get the most enhanced learning experience that they can. So what are some of the problems we see? There are always 3 questions people ask me whenever I'm talking about Bean. The first one is people say to me, hang on, my company doesn't use Caseware. What we've done in Bean, we've used Caseware as the template for the training. But what if you're not using Caseware? It doesn't matter. Bean is not designed to teach you Caseware. Caseware, of course, is the digital audit software that the guys sell, and effectively Caseware provide the training on the software. We don't do that. All we've done is we've used it as an example of the model audit programs that we use. So if you're using a different program, sure, you may see the audit program in a different order, or there may be a different naming convention, but the key principles are there. What we always say is that BEAM teaches first principles. We're teaching you the first principles, ISO-based, in terms of how you would carry out an audit. Okay? A few nuances that exist within different firms and things like maybe materiality or sampling, but the key first principles are still there. Secondly, which audit and accounting standards are covered? BEAM covers effectively IFRS and ISIS. So if you are dialing in from another country, we're not doing this under, for example, US GAAP at the moment. This is an ISO-based methodology. I want to point out, however, that don't get worked up on the accounting standards. Yes, we may have referred to IFRS as the standards, but this, once again, is not an accounting training program. It's designed to teach first principles of auditing. So even if you were, for example, in the UK using UK GAAP, this would be exactly the same principle. The learning would still be the same. And the last one, does it include any specific country add-ons? No. At this stage, BEAM is being used as a generic global training tool. Once again, if you're wanting to add things on, you can do that, and I'll discuss that later. But at the moment, the standard BEAM is a standard ISA first principles training tool. So what am I saying in summary? You've got to make a decision as to how you're going to train your trainees. You can either do it as a blended learning solution, or you can just use BEAM as a standalone digital platform. It's completely up to you. It depends on what you want to do in terms of your learning for your trainees. So what is the cost? Well, for those of you who don't know, the BEAM product, the actual digital program, that sells at 950 Rand per year. There are international prices for those of you who are dialing it from outside, and you can contact us for those. In addition, the other thing we have started doing, obviously, is a discount rate if you've got a certain number, 10 or more trainees, but we've also got the global licenses or branded options available. So if you're dealing with a very large number of trainees, you'd like a branded version of BEAM, or you want looking potentially at a global license, give me a call and we can have a look at that. I think what's key to point out that is that there's no additional cost for the facilitated training materials. So for those of you who are already using BEAM, great stuff. You guys will be sent an email shortly and you can just access all the facilitated materials. For those of you who decide to sign up on the electronic product, all the facilitated material is available for free should you decide to go that route. So that effectively, folks, is what I want to introduce to you, the concept of being in a box, and we think it's quite exciting. One last thing I'm going to mention before I let you go, because I know this was designed to not keep you out of the office too long. We have also launched something interestingly recently called Residuals Online. Now, I know we're entering that situation at the time of year at the moment where you're all trying to sign off your trainees, and there's a whole lot of residual skills that need to be done. What W.consulting has done is we've developed a whole lot of e-learning around the residual skills. These are electronic simulations that they complete. Your trainees will then prepare their outputs, their reports. Those come through to us, and our accredited assessors will mark them and send back a written report to your training officer. So if you have got any trainees who need additional residuals at this time of year, contact us and we can let you know. It's very cost effective. It's only 375 Rand per competency, which I think you'll realize is much cheaper than some of the face-to-face options at the moment in the market. If you do want any information on this or anything to do with the BEAM program, you can just email us on info@wconsulting.co.za. So that's effectively what I want to introduce. If you have got any questions, we are going to be online. Please do feel free to type them in or drop us an email. I have given you my email address there, bruce@wconsulting.co.za. If you have got any questions or would like to discuss BEAM, let me know, email the team. We'd be more than happy to give you some info. Other than that, folks, thank you very much. Hope you have a good afternoon and hope to see you guys on using BEAM. Take care.